With the NBA trade deadline looming, the Boston Celtics have yet to make a move. But could Brad Stevens be cooking something up that would be perfect for the Boston Celtics? Well, with recent transactions and recent moves, a certain player has been waived by the Chicago Bulls, one that Celtics fans, including myself, have wanted the Celtics to pursue and have interest in. So could they pick him up on the buyout market? And how would he affect Joe Mazzulla's offense and what role would he play? We're going to be getting into all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Velez, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic, showing your love and support. Like I said, with the trade deadline coming closer and closer, the Celtics have shown that they're not willing to make any moves, but could be on in the horizon. So if you want to make sure you stay up to date on everything regarding around this team, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Tomorrow, we will be live once again with our guy, Nick NBA, breaking down everything Celtics. Without further ado, let's dive into this video at hand today. Make sure to grab that snack. And before we dive in to the trade rumors, we do have a little bit of an injury update. As we all know, the Celtics are taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. The two top teams in the Eastern Conference are battling, and it's going to be another showdown like we've seen this season and in seasons previous. But last game, the Celtics had no Peyton Pritchard. And for an injury update for the game in Cleveland, as of right now, as of recording at 1:55 p.m. Eastern Time, there are no injuries to report for this Boston Celtics team, which is great to hear and to see some great news. Peyton Pritchard is cleared, and this Celtics team is fully ready to go in their contest versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are without Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro, I do believe, some of their pretty solid defenders in this lineup. So hopefully the Celtics can be able to score and the paint a little bit more, be able to get by some of these Cavaliers defenders a little bit easier, might be having a little bit of an easier offensive game. I'm really excited. We're going to have a post-game breaking down this fantastic game coming here for you guys tonight. So like I said, let us know your thoughts. How do you think the Celtics are going to fare versus the Cavaliers? I think they're looking for revenge from their last contest, and I think that they're going to go out and get it. Let's keep this win streak alive, Boston. Let's keep on chugging. I'm believing in this Celtics team. But let's get into the other news at hand, as we would see possibly an amazing move that I think would be perfect for this Boston Celtics team if Brad Stevens pulled it off. And like I said earlier in the introduction, there have been a lot of trades over these last couple days. We saw Luka Doncic get traded to the Lakers. We saw De'Aaron Fox get traded to the Spurs. Just even today, we saw Caleb Martin, Celtics killer, get traded from the Sixers to the Dallas Mavericks, the Celtics opponent in the finals last year. And things are just circulating around. But with that Kings move, obviously they did a big trade, sending out De'Aaron Fox, bringing in Zach LaVine. But the Bulls had to make some moves, have some repercussions. And what we saw from those moves was that Torrey Craig and Chris Duarte were waived by the Bulls. And I said my kind of analysis was this is actually really big. Torrey Craig was viewed as a potential trade candidate for Chicago, as many teams were interested in him. He will make a nice addition to a championship roster. And if we want to look at Torrey Craig's stats this season, we can see he's averaging around 6.9 points and 2.8 rebounds on 48% shooting from the field and 42% shooting from three-point range. Now, Craig hasn't been the most readily available for the Bulls, has dealt with some injuries, hasn't been able to play in a lot of games, but once again provides a valuable 3-and-D needed wing for a lot of championship contenders. And the great part about Torrey Craig as well is that he was a guy who was under the NMTLE, which is the NTMLE, which is the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is where the Celtics can acquire him on the buyout market. If a player makes over that, since the Celtics are in the second apron, they cannot acquire those players. So if a player is bought out throughout any of this trade deadline that makes over $12.4 million, the Celtics cannot acquire them on the buyout market. But with Torrey Craig making $2 million this season, and being waived, the Bulls would rather pay the $2 million and waive him and let someone else just pick him up. The Bulls had the option to move Duarte or move Torrey Craig in other deals, but would have to sacrifice other draft capital, and were unwilling to do that in a trade revolving around with the Kings and the Spurs, possibly sending them to one of their teams, or possibly even expanding the deal. But with this being said, Craig and Duarte are now free agents, guys that can be picked up, and once they clear this waiver wire, I do expect multiple teams to be interested in them. But I personally think the Boston Celtics and should be one of the top destinations for Torrey Craig, and Brad Stevens should be trying to get a guy like Craig on this team. Like we mentioned, if we want to look at his stats once again, 7 points this season, but 43% basically from 3-point range and 49% from the field. He is a lethal shooter, and even though he is a little bit older at 34 years old, he would be coming in on a veteran minimum contract and would be playing a marginal role for this team. He would be a guy on the edges, just an extra piece, just in case a guy like Peyton Pritchard or Sam Hauser has a cold night offensively. You look at a guy like Torrey Craig and you throw him in there. I've also said that with the Celtics having a guy like Jordan Walsh, I think they should invest in him. But with Jordan Walsh not getting that much playing time over these last couple of weeks and having not seen that much investment this season to really finding himself a role for the playoffs, a guy like Torrey Craig could be another guy that you could add to realistically have as another 3-and-D wing scorer. He can play some very solid defense for this second unit, and I personally do believe that a guy like Torrey Craig would add to this Celtics team. I think even though he would be a guy on the edges, he wouldn't be a guy getting mandatory minutes. He'd probably play sporadically in some games as Joe would use him, but I do believe he would be very, very helpful for the Celtics team, and he's just another veteran to have in the locker room. He's been around the league for a couple of seasons playing with multiple franchises, specifically with the Suns as well, the Bulls, and other teams, and multiple teams had interest in him as a trade target. Like I said, a lot of teams valued Torrey Craig at that $2 million. Teams like the Celtics were said to be interested in him. The Bucks were said to be interested in wanting to move Marjon Beauchamp. The Lakers were said to be interested in him. Amongst other teams were very, very highly interested in a guy in Torrey Craig, as he could provide that great shooting on a cheap contract. But the Bulls, like I said, would rather just waive him and let him choose that decision. And I think the Celtics should be one of those teams that should be standing in that front of the line waiting to sign Torrey Craig. Chris Duarte was also waived, and I want to give Chris Duarte some light as well, as he's a pretty solid defender. He's a young guy as well. I don't necessarily know if it fit on in with this Celtics team, as it'd be just another little project guy, similar like Jaden Springer, and I think Jaden Springer has kind of shown us already that he can be that guy for this Celtics team. But I do expect Duarte to be picked up and to be looked at by other franchises as well. Ultimately, like I said, the Bulls didn't want to give up extra draft capital to move off of those guys. They'd rather just waive them. But I do think that two teams on the market will benefit in adding guys like Torrey Craig and Chris Duarte. And like I just mentioned, with the Boston Celtics, it should be a little bit easier. They do have 14 guys under roster, and with Craig being that 15th guy, they could ultimately just sign him, not have to trade anybody, not have to waive anybody at that matter. If they still wanted to make a move in repercussion for bringing a guy like Torrey Craig on, that's totally fine. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I want to know your thoughts. I know a lot of Celtics fans like Torrey Craig, think he'd be a good fit, so that's why I thought this would be a good video to talk about. But I want to know what you guys ultimately think. So like I said, let me know how you guys feel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Like I said, we'll be live tomorrow with Nick NBA, so it's going to be a fantastic one. I hope to catch you guys there, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics.